Thank you for joining us at Writer's Hive 2025. I'm Lourdes Leiner. I am a poet, a fiction writer, and an educator in my community. I'm committed to not only making work powerful, but accessible. I believe stories should be available to everyone, regardless of how they access the text, regardless of their reading background, and regardless of their education level. That's why I'm passionate about publishing in accessible formats. So that is the overview of what we'll be discussing today. For my books, that means that I look for beyond standards of average printing. I also incorporate ebooks with screen reader compatibility, large print edition re-releases for low vision audiences, plain language summaries for different reading levels, and audio versions read by me, read by the author to incorporate a more expansive and engaging narration in the world of technology. So, when possible, I also caption all video poetry and purvey with sign language at spoken word events. And anytime Braille ready files can be made, they are arranged for audiences. So when I talk about accessibility, I'm not thinking about complying, I'm not thinking about obeying, I'm thinking about inviting. Being accessible is an invitation. And invitations are valuable. That means people show up. You make space. There's more room at the table for everyone to enjoy each other's company. So, this is crucial. And this is vital in the world of literature. And it is an ethical responsibility for authors and publishers alike. So, from here, let's take a moment and remember that someone who processes the world differently can still feel fully present in mine. For my upcoming science fiction novel In Vitro, I wanted to reflect that format in the future and writing with inclusive design. And as for publishers and distributors in the space of accessible publishing, I'd love to connect, and together we can make literature space feel more available, more seen, more heard, and more welcomed. This can look like small integrated steps. And I have learned all of these firsthand since I am a self-made author. That means at the age of 23, I put out this book and learned everything. This was all written on a hospital bed through my stories of survival, surviving a near-death life experience. I took every single poem written on a napkin, a scrawled up version of a notebook, and jury-rigged it all together to get the first little scrap section of poetry. And now we're here with a full-fledged novel sci-fi to be released by the end of the year. And why do I say this to you? Because this is firsthand experience. I made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. You need to be aware of your font size. You need to be aware of how things are perceived at a distance. You need to make sure to have audio versions. And when you do market, aka share your work with an audience, invite them in, ask questions. And the biggest thing that you can do to make writing accessible is to be open-minded to those who do not view themselves as readers. The context within traditional education for reading is that reading is a chore. Reading is homework. Reading has to get done. It's something to get out of the way. In a lot of traditional educational environments, people feel forced to read books at certain points in time. So when you produce work, when you share work with an audience, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind. So make your work accessible. Open as many doors as possible and see who you welcome into the world of literature. You can change perspectives quickly without even realizing it. And I say this as a self-made author in one of the lowest rates of literacy in the United States. I am an author that sits in Tucson, Arizona. Arizona is 48th in education, and our average reading level is that of a fifth grader in Arizona. So, something as small as standing in the place of where my community is and attending events and simply having an open book and having text that's accessible and having e-formats and having audio files engages in a more dynamic level within the world of technology and brings people in that don't view themselves as a reader. And now they have open doors, open windows, and that is an ethical responsibility within the world of literature. That is how we dissolve gatekeepers. That is how we breathe in life into our communities. And that is also how we record history. So, publishing in accessible content and formats is vital, and everyone benefits from this process. So, just to give an overview again, if you have questions that you want to keep with yourself, I would recommend a few things. I have 8. So first, when it comes to your publication process, we have 4. When it comes to you as individually as an author, we have 4 more questions. So take time to sit with these as you go about these conferences, as you go about publishing new work, as you go about editing, as you go about traditionally publishing. Keep these in mind. How will this format serve the blind and low vision readers? How can we use dyslexia-friendly fonts? What are our options for audio versions, and who gets to voice them? How can we center the reader's dignity? And for my authors and writers out there, I encourage you to ask yourself, who is being left out of my current formats? What barriers are being built into the platforms I use? How much distance is between me and a reader? And what might it look like to rethink those barriers as an artistic opportunity? So remember, access isn't just complying. Access isn't just about another stamp or thing to approve or something to get out of the way or a rubric to fill. It's care, it's community, and it's at the essence of education, and it's an ethical responsibility to publishers and authors alike. So, I want to take time to say thank you so much for listening. Again, this is Writers Hive 2025. I am Lourdes Leiner. If you want to find out more about me, go to www.feralghoulfriend.com or type in Feral Ghoulfriend on Instagram. You can find more of my content there, and also my books are available at Amazon.com as well as Barnes& Noble and through my website www.com, Feral Ghoulfriend. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Writers Hive, and remember, an accessible world is a better world. An accessible world is a friendly world. Thank you again, and have a good one.